So thanks for coming to this presentation of value propositions, or basically how to get people to care. My name is Robb Selander. I am a co-founder of Redonics, which is a full-service, an all-in-one marketing and website platform with all the integrated things like CRM, SEO, e-commerce, all of that. And one of the things that we get talked to a lot about is from our customers is how they actually get people to care about what they sell. History is littered with businesses, companies, products that in some cases were absolutely revolutionary, but nobody wanted them, nobody bought them, nobody knew how to understand them. So we're going to talk about a couple of those, and then we're going to go into how you can actually find the value for your business, product, or whatever. And if you don't have a business or product yet, how you can use the same model to figure out maybe a business idea. As we all live in tech, right? So, how to find something that maybe people need that you can then go out and develop. So we're going to start with, so why do you need a value proposition? Well, that's what this whole thing is going to be about. So without Googling, does anybody know the significance of this date? Okay, before we get to this date, July 7th, 1928, we're going to talk about this guy. This guy in the late 1910s, early 1920s, his name's Otto Rohweder. He was a jeweler and an inventor. And he invented something that he thought was going to be really awesome. He took it out, nobody wanted it. This is what his invention looked like. It was big. It was going to take up space in somebody's business. They were going to have to train somebody how to use it. There were parts, there were all of these things. And to make matters worse, nobody was asking for the product that this provided. And when people did see the thing that this provided, they thought it was ugly. They didn't like it. It didn't look good. They thought the shelf life wasn't going to be very long, right? Nobody wanted it. Nobody understood it. And he tried and tried and tried. It was several years before, on July 7th, 1928, in Missouri, the very first loaf of sliced bread went through his machine and changed everything. But now, can you imagine, back in like 1927, or even on July 5th, 1928, people didn't want it. They didn't understand it. Nobody was asking for it, right? They had always cut their own bread. There was nothing wrong with cutting their own bread. Bakers didn't want it because no customers had ever asked them, so why should they offer something that nobody wanted? Fortunately, a little while after this, a company called Continental Bakery bought his invention and launched Wonder Bread, which was the first commercially produced sliced bread, which I believe came out in like 1930. It became so popular that in World War II, when flour was banned, or flour was rationed, sliced bread was actually banned, and women all over the US petitioned Congress to unfreeze the ban on sliced bread because of the impact it had on their lives. So the reason I tell this story is because, a lot of times we hear like, oh, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But when sliced bread was invented, nobody wanted it. Nobody understood it. Nobody got it. Nobody was asking for it. And for a lot of us, it's the same thing with our products, our businesses, our services, right? Nobody's asking for them. And if they are, there's maybe 75 other options that they can choose. They don't have to choose ours. None of us, I'm going to go out on a limb here, is the only game in town on what we do or what we want to do or what we're thinking about doing. So a little fun fact to add to this. We're selfish, lazy, and ruthless, right? And we have to be. We don't have much time. We have to be very selfish with the time we have. And we're lazy. We don't want to look for value. We don't want to interview you to find out what you're offering, how you're going to benefit my life and all that. We don't want to do that. And we're ruthless. Look at how we scroll through Instagram and Facebook. Gross, like, gross, right? And those are our friends that we're doing that to. Forget about businesses that we've never engaged with. Think about, maybe somebody that we met that, we don't even want to hear from. We do that to our friends. We do that to our family. We do that to our kids, to anybody who's on Facebook and Instagram, right? We're ruthless. We don't give them a chance. And then when we like them, we think we've done some great service out there, right? Oh, hey, I liked your post. You didn't respond. I liked your post. So that is one of the things That is one of the reasons of why we need a value proposition. We have to stand out, we have to matter, we have to resonate. So a value proposition helps your customers answer questions like, why should I care about your product or service, right? What are you gonna do for me? Why should I buy your service? Why should I recommend you, upgrade, downgrade, tell my friends, refer somebody, resubscribe, whatever that happens to be, your value proposition answers that question. And if you already have, even if you already have products, maybe you have ideas, maybe you're already out there in the market, there's always room to refine it, and you always want to start with your customers. Always start with your customers. I go to so many networking events, and I'm sure we've all stood across from the person who's going on and on and on and on and on about the features and all of these things. And in our heads, and I'm sure we've all been there, we're like, I don't care, I just want you to stop talking, right? Well, people do this to our products and services because we're not communicating our value proposition, right? If I come out here, oh, it slices, it dices, it does this, that's great, but what does it do for me? What does it do for you? Oh, hold on, I don't know why this is automatically going forward. Okay, so what do you use it for? Did that flip slide? Okay, there we go. So what do you use it for? Well, you use it for everywhere you're going to communicate. Your value proposition, it must be on your website, your social media, your blogs, your elevator pitch. Anywhere somebody comes in contact with you or your business, your value proposition has to be there. And then to complicate it a little bit further, different customer segments have different value propositions. Who here goes to the gym? You? Why do you go to the gym?
For functional fitness.
For what?
Functional fitness.
For functional fitness? Why do you want to be functionally fit?
Because when I'm 60, I don't want to suffer.
Okay, so why do you go to the gym?
For my mental health.
For your mental health. Okay? So, and why is it important for you to have good mental health?
So that way I can do better in life.
Okay, right? So the gym is the gym, but you two go for very different reasons. And there may be an overlap in there, but you just gave me two completely different reasons. So if I was to give you a value proposition to join my gym, I need to talk to you in one way, and I need to talk to you in a slightly different way, even though it's exactly the same product or service. Welcome. So, I don't know why this is on autopilot. Anyway, this is like jumping ahead, I think. Okay, so great value propositions speak to your audience. They're clear, they're concise, they're easy to understand. Again, we're lazy people. Our customers are lazy, we're all lazy. Don't make people figure out what it is you have to offer. Serve it up to them on a silver platter, right? Communicate your brand promise. And the biggest thing, you have to provide evidence of your value, right? We all hear this is the greatest, this is the best, this is the easiest. And how many times have we logged into an app that is supposed to simplify our lives, and the login process alone, right? We've all done it, and we don't even go into the app. We're like, oh, forget that, I'm out of here. And that app is supposed to be the simplest. You have to provide evidence of value in every single touch point right from the very beginning. So, customers are really horrible at saying what they want, right? We've always been told, oh, go talk to your customers, go talk to your customers. Customers suck when it comes to telling us what they want or what they don't want. I started my career back in 1988 in mobile telecoms, cellular. And all I heard from friends and family, I don't want to talk to somebody on the beach. I don't want people calling me in the car. I don't want to be reachable all day. I don't want all of these things. Those same people today, I can't get them off their phone, right? Not only do they want to be reachable, they're posting pictures. Hey, look, I'm doing this. This is what I'm having for breakfast. This is what I'm having for lunch, right? If you ask people, and I did ask people in the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, what they wanted in a cell phone, I heard easier texting, smaller phones, better sound quality. Nobody mentioned taking selfies. Nobody mentioned the picture, listening to music, playing Candy Crush. Nobody mentioned any of that. Why? Because we didn't even know that it was there. It's the same thing, right? People didn't know that they wanted sliced bread. They thought they didn't want it. They didn't know they didn't want it. They didn't know they did want it, right? Until actually they saw the value in it, and then they changed their minds. So the focus we need to move the focus away from products that we think that people might want, and focus on the jobs they're trying to do. What are people actually trying to get done? And you can apply this to everything from a piece of tech to a date, right? You go on a date with somebody, what are they trying to get done? How are you going to add value? That's all really great stuff to know. So it's not just for products and services. So we work with what's called jobs to be done. Has anybody heard that phrase, a job to be done? Yeah? No? Yes? No? So a job to be done is whatever the customer's trying to get done in their work or personal life. So it's tasks they're trying to perform, it's the problems that they have, it's needs they're trying to satisfy. And customer jobs are going to probably vary. They will vary depending on the context in which they're used. For example, how we send a text message sitting here in a room versus how we send a text message driving 80 miles an hour down the freeway, right? Those are very, very different, even though the same thing is we're trying to communicate with somebody, we're trying to send somebody a message. We have to do that in very different ways. So products change, but the jobs to be done don't change, right? If we think through our lives, like certain things have changed, but what we're trying to do, that hasn't changed at all. The how we do it has changed. To illustrate that, I'm a huge music lover, so we're gonna take a quick tour through the history of music over the last 30, 40 years. And in 1983, this is what the music consumption landscape looked like. Anybody who's old enough, I'm ancient, I remember when cassette tapes were like the big thing. And then CDs, I hadn't even heard of CDs in 1983. I heard about them probably 85 when I graduated. But this is how people consumed music. So if you were to talk about music, you would be pushing CDs and LPs, right? Or sorry, you would be pushing cassettes and LPs. The problem is 10 years later, people weren't buying LPs, people were buying CDs. And now you have a problem. They're still listening to music, but how they're listening to music, that has actually changed. We jump to 2003, the market's completely dominated by CDs. So if you were to start a music business in 2003, it makes the most sense to get into the CD space, right? That's where everybody is. But 10 years later, CDs are less than a third of our total music consumption. So if you were in the CD space, now you were hurting. And if you were in the CD space today, you're really hurting. But what is this gonna look like in the future? What is this gonna look like in 2032, in 2033? Are we gonna be streaming? Are we gonna have maybe an implant in our head that just stimulates our brains to hear music? We don't know. And the thing is, it actually doesn't even matter. If you're in the music business, if you're in the business of helping people listen to music, it doesn't matter. But people miss this boat all the time. Blockbuster Video, right? They thought they were in the DVD and VHS space. If they would have realized they were in the helping people watch a movie space, they should have been Netflix. The problem is they were in the DVD space, not in the let's help people watch a movie space. So when we're in the wrong space, when we're focused on the wrong things, sometimes opportunities can fly past us, and sometimes that can be devastating. Again, the case of Blockbuster Video. So if you understand what the person's trying to do, then it becomes a lot easier to figure out how to improve the product. So there's basically three types of customer jobs to be done. They fall into three different categories. And the first one is functional, right? That's actually what the person's really trying to do, right? I'm trying to listen to music, mow the lawn, get a haircut, have some good cookies, get a good ice cream, book a hotel, whatever that happens to be, that's the functional. The social piece of it is, what are people gonna say about us or think about us when we do this, right? I buy a Tesla, I drive it around, people are gonna make certain assumptions of me. If I mow my lawn, people are gonna think good things, my neighbors will hopefully think good things about me, and if I don't mow my lawn, chances are I'm gonna get a letter from some angry neighbors or my HOA. So that's the social piece. Then we've got the emotional piece of, what does that actually make us feel? right? So if you go to the gym, right, we've got our functional thing. I'm going to go, I'm going to work out, I'm going to do, whatever it is that I do. But then we've got the social part because, well, what others think about us when we go to the gym is incredibly important, right? I'm sure for anybody who goes to the gym, myself included, yeah, I want to look kind of, okay if I'm by the swimming pool here in Vegas in a bathing suit, right? I want to fit into the jeans I fit into 5 years ago. And then I want to feel good, right? I want people to be like, oh, look, he looks good. He looks great. He looks like he's been working out. He looks healthy. How does he do it? But then I also want the emotional part. Like I want to feel good, like you said, right? I want to feel good when I'm 65. I want to feel good today. I want to feel like, yeah, my biceps are ripping out the seams of my t-shirt. It feels good, right? We want those things. And when you're talking about or thinking about your customers, you need to think about the jobs across these three things. Now, not every business is going to go across all three, right? You're not going to feel emotionally warm and fuzzy because the plumber came out and unclogged your sink, right? That's not really going to play into all three. But things like the gym, anything that has to do with our lifestyle, right? People carry an iPhone. Why? Because of what they feel about themselves, and they want other people like, oh, you have the new iPhone already? You have this new thing already, right? Early adapters, people that love gadgets, we want to be the first ones. Why? It makes us feel good, and we love it when people say, oh, where'd you get that? Show me how it is. Let me try that. I can't believe you have it. I'm so jealous. Mine's coming in 6 weeks, right? We love that, especially when it's our close friends or whatever. We love when we have something that they don't have. So when it comes to music, and to put that into the context of these three things, so the functional piece of that, of course, for me, is just listening to music, right? I just want to listen to music. I want to find new bands. I want to discover bands I haven't heard of before. That's really all I'm trying to do when I listen to music. The social piece of that for me is I'm one of the people that a lot of friends go to and say, hey, who's new? Who's got a good album out? I'm having a party. Do you have a good playlist? What should I listen to? I like that. I have people that follow me on Spotify because they're like, oh, I like the music that you like, or I want to see what you're doing. And of course, that makes me feel really good. And I feel good just by listening to music. If I'm angry, I listen to music that helps me get it out. If I feel happy, I listen to music that elevates that. If I'm kind of bummed out, I listen to music that's going to cheer me up. So all three of those things are there. And when you have all three, the more of those you have, the stronger your value proposition is going to be, especially if you can tackle and tap into the emotional and the social ones, right? Because that's where we really are there. So we're going to use these to, I don't know why this is on autopilot. We're going to use these to create a value proposition. So we start with the customer profile. And the customer profile, darn it. Okay, hold on. I don't know what is going on here. So the customer profile is where we start with the jobs to be done, and then we look at the pains that people are having while doing those, right? What's getting in their way? Again, if we take the gym, right? I want to get in shape, but I haven't been in the gym in a long time, so I feel a little embarrassed. I feel a little intimidated. I don't have, 72-inch biceps. I don't look like Chris Hemsworth. It's intimidating to walk into the gym. And then we have the things that people actually want that are maybe going to elevate that. Things that will make the experience better, like maybe there's a gym full of just out of shape people that are trying to get in shape like me. I'll feel better, right? Not realistic, but sometimes people want those things. So when we look at the value map, we then look at the products and services that we offer, or that we can offer, and then we look at the pain relievers. So like, of all the pains that came up from what our customers want, what can we relieve? And it's not about relieving all of them, and I've got a few examples a little bit later where you'll see it's not about relieving all of the pains, it's about relieving the right ones. And even if you can't relieve it, you can maybe minimize it just a little bit, make it just a little bit better. And then which of those big wants can you fulfill? So fit is when one side of this supports the other side. So wants should map against wants fulfilled, at least one. They may have 10 wants, maybe you can only fulfill one of those. The same thing with the pains. Some of the pains need pain relievers. If you're not relieving at least one, and maybe it is just one, if you're not doing something to at least one, you don't have a value proposition, right? Because when people have a pain, they care when you can relieve that. If they don't have a pain, they don't care if you can relieve it or not, right? They don't care what you're doing. And when you have that, you have what's called fit between what the customers want, what the customers are trying to do, and what you actually offer. So if you want to follow this as we go along, there is an app. You can scan the QR code. You could fill out as we go, do it with your own business. It is free. And you can put in your own information as we're going through this. So I'm going to do a really quick example. I chose something non-tech because I know not everybody in here is necessarily tech, and I wanted to come up with something that I thought everybody could relate to at least a little bit. So I came up with, my business is, I want to be a coffee shop, but I want to also be a workspace. I don't want to just be a coffee shop where people come in. I don't want to be a drive-through. I want people to come in and sit down and do those things. So the jobs to be done are, right, I want to work, I want to have good coffee, and I want to be able to have meetings, right? That's why I personally go to coffee shops for those things. But the pains I have are, they can be expensive, right? Lattes have now gone up to $8 for a latte in some places where they used to be $5. They can be noisy. But my biggest pain, my absolute biggest pain is power supply. So you know what I mean, right? You go in, your laptop, whatever, it's on 10%. You go into the coffee shop, and all the tables along the wall are filled. There's 3 empty tables in the middle, and you've got to sit there with absolutely no battery, no charger. That is my biggest complaint across the board with coffee shops. I don't know why somebody hasn't figured out, if you have a table, have power. Figure it out. It can't be that difficult. So what I want is, I want power supply and I want space, right? I don't like when people are sitting like 2 inches away from me because I'm working on stuff I may not really want people to see, but I do want to be in a public space because I like it. It's all, inspiring, hip and cool and all those things. So the products and services that I'm going to offer now, this is my customer, I'm going to offer locally roasted coffee. I'm going to offer a coffee subscription, and I'm going to have some light food, right? Because if people are working, I want them to have some, a reason to stay there. I'm going to have a coffee subscription to lower costs, right? I'm going to make it a little bit cheaper for somebody to buy a subscription than to buy an $8 latte 5 days a week, 4 weeks in a row. I'm going to make sure there's power at every table. So all you people who laughed, come to my coffee shop. You will have power at your table, I promise. And I'm going to have power packs to rent for people that have their phones. You could just rent a little power pack, plug in if you need to for whatever reason. So now that I have those things, especially these things over here. So I'm only looking now at my products and at my value map, the products and services side. There's 2 questions, my 2 favorite questions in the whole world. And if we ever work together, you will hear these from me over and over and over again. It's so what? And who cares? I've talked to a lot of businesses. I run a lot of businesses through this workshop. It's one of the things that we offer. It's actually, I've been doing these workshops for going on 10 years. And I ask people, why would I buy from you? What are your pain relievers? And I always get what they think are really good answers. Oh, I've been working on this idea for 5 years. I put all my money into this. This is my pet project. This is my life dream. This is, my grandma or grandpa's, recipe or idea, whatever it happens to be. And it's really great and it's very personal to that person. But to me, I don't care, right? I don't care. I don't care if it took you 5 years to build your app. I don't care if you did it, yesterday using AI and you got it up and running and it's all perfect. It doesn't matter to me, right? So what? Who cares? I don't care how Amazon delivers things the next day or in 2 days. I don't care. I don't care if they have Oompa Loompas. I don't care if they've trained circus monkeys to do it. It doesn't matter. I just want my stuff in 2 days. And as long as they can do that, I don't care. As long as it's ethical and moral, I don't care. And I don't think anybody else here cares either. Anybody care how Amazon does it? No? That's what, a little bit? That's what I thought.
Labor issues and stuff like that.
The what? Sorry?
Like the labor issues.
No, but like I say, but barring any ethical, moral, anything like that, yeah, nobody really cares. So going back to this, if I add the so what and who cares, you only add that to your own stuff. Never so what or who cares your customers. Never so what or who cares what they want, what they're asking for. It doesn't matter how petty it may seem. If it's important to them, it's important. It does not matter how trivial, how tiny, how insignificant, even if you think it's the stupidest thing you've heard. If it matters to them, it matters. So we're going to look at another company. This is actually, yes?
Didn't you just ask them though, so what, and who cares to them? So you're not, stealing something, wouldn't that be kind of...
You do, and I'm going to get into that. The problem is it's how you ask your customers. So
Your customer, if you want to design something that really, at the end, that they can answer, so what, or who cares, it seems like you would get them really, their mind rolling,
Okay.
asking that question right out of the chute for them.
Okay.
Not like you're saying it, you're asking, so who cares about it?
I'm not asking the customer who cares. When I work with businesses, so like if I work with somebody and
Oh, I see what you're saying.
like for example,
In the business you do, but not...
to the business I do, yeah, I would never ask a customer the so what and who cares. No, I want to know why it matters to them. I want to know why that what I think is tiny and insignificant. I would want to know, like, why is that a big deal? What's causing you the headache? No, but for the business, when a business comes back and says, and I've worked with over the past 10 years, I've worked with a lot of bakeries, right? Because a lot of people have baking as a hobby. And about 6 years ago, somebody came in to my office and they were going to start a bakery. And I said, great, why would I go to your bakery? There's 5 of them within a 10-minute walk from me. I was working downtown. It's my mom's recipe. I'm like, I don't care. I mean, I don't know your mom. I've never had your mom's cookies, right? I don't care. Maybe they're the best cookies in the world, but I don't care. Well, I've been baking since I was 4. Okay, I don't care, right? That's what I'm talking about. Those things are great things when you're talking about the about me, my story. How did I get started? Oh, I love baking. I did it with my grandmother since I was 4, blah, 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 blah. But that's not why people are going to buy from you, right? You didn't buy the shirt that you're wearing because the person who sewed it has been sewing their whole lives and they're in their dream job and it's the most amazing thing they can do is to sew clothes. No, you bought it because you wanted it. You bought it for a different reason. So that's where you want the so what and the who cares. So this is an actual, I duplicated this. This is an actual workshop that Tesla went through way back when they were first coming out with things. So these were the real jobs to be done that they came up with, the real pains that people had. So the jobs to be done that their customers had, right? Commuting to work. But look at the conveying success. Very emotional, very social job that they had to do. And they'd be occasionally long distance and they'd want to be eco-friendly. But their fears were accidents, frequent charging. What happens, especially in a place like Nevada, right? You go 20 miles in any direction and you're seriously in the middle of nowhere. No gas station, no phone, sometimes not even any phone coverage. And so they had a lot of pains, right? And people didn't really get electric cars. They were kind of new. And then there was all this, does it drive itself? Does it not drive itself? Am I going to die if it drives itself? Right? We didn't know. And we saw this news coverage. And then there's the wants that people had, right? They wanted a car that looked like a sports car, right? Remember the old electronic cars that we would see like designed back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and they just looked so weird and boxy, and nobody wants that. People want sexy sports cars. And people want to get compliments from friends, right? When we buy a new car, what's the first thing we do? Hey, come over, look at my car. We want everybody to tell us how great it is, how cool we look in it. So when Tesla offered things, right, they offered like a battery warranty, and then of course they have their different models, but they only had a few options. They didn't have 75 different models. They don't have 200 different colors. And they certainly didn't have those things back then. So the pain relievers that they decided to go after, notice they didn't go after the accidents and harm. They didn't go after safety. They went after battery life, they went after charging speed, and they went after how many people could fit in the car, right? You could fit, what, 7 people in a Tesla, depending on the model that you get? It's pretty cool. That's what they went after. And then the gains that they gave people, you know, an autonomous car, some people might want that, some people don't. I don't know how I'd feel driving 80 miles an hour down the freeway while taking a nap. But they focused on design and they gave it a really high-end feel, right? With the whole touchscreen in the car. So again, they focused on, they took what people wanted, they got the pains, they mapped out a couple of the key pain relievers. So the idea with this is not to figure out every job your client's trying to do. It's not to come up with every possible pain they might have. You want to come up with the key things. And if you find yourself with, let's say, more than like 6 or 7 pains or jobs to be done, prioritize them. What are the top 3 or 4? And you do it per customer segment. So if I was doing this for a gym, I might do this on people that are looking to bodybuild. I might do it on people that are just looking for like good mental health and de-stressing. I might get people who are maybe aging and just don't want to lose the mobility that they have, or maybe people that have been in an accident and need to get that mobility back. Each one of those is going to have a completely different job to be done. They're going to have different pains, they're going to have different wants, they're going to have different fears, they're going to have different needs. And if you're a really good gym, you're going to have to address those. Yes?
So I think like one of the hardest things for startup owners to do, because if we live this, we're staring at it all day, is sometimes you go in and you're like, oh my God, I have at least 2 customer segments mixed together and that's why I can't get clarity. If we're working in our own silo, yes, getting help, talking to an expert is super helpful. But if you are still working in your own silo, what advice do you have for someone working by themselves for when they get stuck in this process?
If you're working by yourself, you still have to talk to people. Even if you are going to be your best customer, you still have to talk to people. And talking to people, so it takes me to, let's go here. Oops. So here. So you want to have conversations, right? Because even if you're working in a silo, you're designing products, you're designing things for people. Even if you're designing an end-to-end business solution, people are going to be using it, people are going to be logging in, and people are going to say, this is what I love and this is what I hate. So where a lot of us go wrong is, especially in the tech space, is we talk to people about features. Wouldn't you love to be able to send an instant message to anyone? Wouldn't you love to be able to upload your picture instantly? Wouldn't you love to, but those things, they're great features, but what does it mean for me? Like, I'm one of those people, I am not a social media person. I hate social media. I get the benefits for some people. I'm on it reluctantly because I have to be, but I don't like it. All those features, I don't like. And the benefits are not enough for me to be on social media. Because for me, the negatives outweigh the benefits. Now, I know other people, I have friends who live on social media. It's nothing against them, but it is not for me. It is not part of the value. I don't see the value in it, personally. So you want to ask people open-ended questions, right? Hey, would you like a phone? Yes. Would you like a phone with a lot of features? Sure. It's very different than if you say, hey, what would you like your phone to be able to do? Or just, where do you struggle day to day? What's your biggest headache in a day? What is your biggest headache? And if you don't have a product yet as tech people, if you start asking people, how do you spend your day? How do you do that thing that you need to do every single day? What gets in your way? What do you hate about it? What sucks about it? What do you love about it? If you had a magic wand, what would you change about it? And then those are the things that either if you're a developer, you can just hopefully go out and just make, and give that to people. Or if you have a product or a marketer, find those pieces in your product that answer some of those pains. And again, you don't have to answer all of them. And in some cases, like in the Tesla case, right, you would think that accident and harm, that would be a massive thing for them to go after, but they didn't. They didn't find that the most important, and neither did their customers. Because if they did, we wouldn't be seeing Teslas all over the place. So again, they did talk to their customers, and you can ask your customers, hey, of all of these things, which ones matter to you? So I'm not saying don't talk to customers and don't ask customers questions, but when you go to a customer and say, hey, what do you want? Have you ever been to a restaurant and you or the person you're with, they've ordered something and when the food order is like, oh, I don't know why I ordered this, I didn't even want this, right? I have a 15-year-old who does that all the time. If we don't know what we want in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right, we make ourselves a lunch in the morning, lunchtime comes around, like, oh, I don't want this, and we go out to eat. Customers are the same way. And when we put all our eggs in that basket of what do you want, customers are going to give us what they believe is the truth, but it's not really what they want, because a lot of cases, especially when we get into the tech space, they don't even know what's possible, right? None of us knew that we couldn't live without AI a year ago. I wasn't walking around like, oh, if only I had ChatGPT because I got 5 articles to write. That didn't even cross my mind. And now the moment I have an article to write, boom, that's my first thought. I didn't even know I wanted it. And if you would have told me a year ago I would be doing that, I would have told you were crazy. There's no way. Nothing was going to write an article as good as I could write it, the way I would write it. I was wrong. I worked at mobile telecoms back in the mid-90s, and all of us, experts in the room, we knew one thing for certain about mobile telecoms. Nobody was going to take the time to type in a text message on a phone when all you had to do was press the send button and call. Nobody. It wasn't marketed. It wasn't priced. It wasn't in any of the instruction manuals. And a year later, I was living in Europe at the time, 1 billion messages a month were going across European networks. So don't even trust the experts. And what were people trying to do? Nobody was going around saying, oh, if only I could send a text. But people wanted to be able to communicate and connect in an unintrusive way. They wanted to be able to say hi to somebody without worrying like, oh, maybe they're in a meeting. Maybe their boss is standing right there. Maybe there's something going on. And once that was out there and people realized that, they were able to do it via text messaging. Again, it's about getting the value out there. What are people actually trying to do? So, how much time do we have?
3:27.
What?
Just
3:27.
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
30.
Oh, 30 minutes. Okay, so that's basically my presentation. I like having it open for talks, for conversations. If anybody wants to have a go at putting it there, yes.
So do the orders go watts and then panes? Do you have an order that you do specifically?
Yeah, so always start with the jobs to be done. Always start with the jobs to be done. Because if you don't know what people are trying to do, you don't know where to focus. And again, the jobs to be done could be as simple as having a great scoop of ice cream to overhauling their business processes or anything. It could be saving a marriage. If you're an attorney, that might be their job to be done. Getting a clean divorce, getting a new house. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Once you know it, then you can work with it. Then you move into the pains, always the pains after that. And then based on the pains, okay, so in a great world, what would you really want? Like if you could just have anything, what would you want? And then on the other side, you figure out the products and services you either have, or maybe you can develop or create. Because it could very well be that you have the customer profile, but you actually have no products or services. That's a great way for companies to start as well. And this is a model that IKEA uses, Microsoft uses, Tesla uses it, Nescafe. It's used by massive corporations, and it works. And then you go to the pain relievers, because really it's your pain and your pain relievers you actually do have to match. If you match a want, if you don't match a want, wants aren't something where if you don't have it, the customer's like, well, they don't have that, so I'm not going to go there. But pain relievers, those are your roadblocks, those are the walls, those are the landmines that people hit when they're trying to do what it is that they're trying to do. Right? So for example, what? Oh yeah, I don't need that. So for example, childcare at the gym, right? That wasn't a thing, I think 10, 15 years ago. Now all of a sudden it is, and that can be a decision maker for people. Whereas 10, 20 years ago, it didn't matter because no gym had childcare. And even though it was a pain, no gym was addressing it, so it really didn't matter. And then once one gym addressed it, and then all of a sudden people are like, hey, wait a minute, if you can do it, why aren't you doing it? Suddenly it becomes one of the deciding factors. Yeah.
Yeah, just one piece I want to emphasize, but also want to ask about.
Okay.
The talking to your customers piece,
Yeah.
I think is, like, if you're coming from a developer role and
Mhm.
transitioning to some other role, it's like insanely easy to just, not talk to your customers
Mhm.
in the first place because you think you can just build whatever you think is cool and that
Yep.
must be right. Like, that's already one, like, insanely easy trap to fall in, is not talking to them at all. And then if you do manage to talk to them, it's really easy to bias the conversation in a certain
Mhm.
direction.
Bias.
Bias, yeah.
Yeah.
And ask questions in a way that are framed in a way that don't actually give you what you're looking for.
Exactly.
Like, would it be cool if when you clicked on this happened? Like, that's like not the way. So, anyway, like this has taken me years to even learn myself, but like, do you have any like go-to ways to frame these kinds of user interviews and stuff
Like
like
these.
that? Yeah, okay.
There's nothing leading about this. What's important to you?
Yeah.
What do you try to do during the day? You put in the context of what you're trying to do. So, what's your name? Sorry? Surya? What's your name? Alec. So if I were to ask the two of you, let's say I was going to start a gym. And I know do you go to the gym?
Yeah.
Okay, so I might say like, okay, I might frame it in the context of a gym. You know, what do you like when you go to the gym? Like, what are the things that you really like? What is it that you really don't like? What do you do when you go to the gym? Like, are you an aerobics person? And I wouldn't lead it with that. I was like, what do you do when you go to the gym? Like, walk me through you get out of your car and what happens next? Just keep it very open. It's extremely hard to do. But that's why a lot of times if you can get even like some good polls, you can put a poll on Facebook or you can like survey people and really just have very specific questions and just stick to a script. You can even have it in front of you and just ask the question. But yeah, because you don't want to lead. You don't want to lead people because, and we do this all the time because having been one of my own customers, and we have a web platform, I'll look at it like, well, I would never do that. I don't get it. This is to this is to that. But I have to realize I'm in this space. I live and breathe this stuff. I'm not our customer.
Right.
Not at all. So I think I know what they need, but it's only when they come back. And there's things I think like, oh, nobody's going to care about this. And that is the thing they latch onto. That's the thing they want to run with. And then there's things I'm like, well, everybody understands this. And I find myself, that's what I spend the most of the time explaining. So, yeah, it's very important.
I
Yes.
just have a comment on talking to your customers and how it's not always like a foolproof solution. Because like I had a situation where I was talking to musicians about an app I was building, and I was asking them for feedback, and they were like, these are musicians that are actively promoting their music, and I would tell them my idea, and they're like, oh wow, that's amazing, but after more research that I found out, like not talking to my customers, I realized this solution is already built into one of the major players. They didn't even know it. And these are like people that are actively searching for this product. So it was interesting that like talking to my customers didn't lead to necessarily that solution.
If I can piggyback on that, because I think pulling all of these points together, Rob brings incredible value with this. At the end of the day, your value proposition is how you talk to your customer.
Right.
And the answer is, if somebody exists out there that feels these pain points and they haven't found an existing solution, there are so many businesses where being in the right place at the right time means they get a client. And the pie is huge. So being in that space is sometimes enough. And then once you have your initial user base, then you can start differentiating more. Be like, but what does this customer specifically
Yes.
want? Being there to get your initial revenue, get off the ground, like that's your startup phase. And then after that, you get to be like, okay, but now how can I be a coffee shop with a subscription so everybody who doesn't want to go to a co-working space comes to me instead? And then you start seeing differentiation.
Right. One example I've used a lot is lipstick. I don't really understand. I don't wear makeup, but I've seen so many commercials, and it seems to me like lipstick is lipstick. But this one moisturizes, that one stays on all day, that one plumps them up, that one is glossy, that one's matte, that one is allergy free, right? But each one of those, so it's not even about reinventing the wheel, it's all lipstick, but they've taken one sliver, and just because this one says it moisturizes, implies that the other ones don't. Even if the other ones do, they just haven't come out and said, we moisturize. When COVID hit, Clorox came out on their packaging about a month later, kills 99.9% of all COVID germs. And they owned it. Nobody else could claim that in that way anymore. Lysol could have been first, but they weren't. And when you went to Costco, Clorox wipes were sold out. There were 5 other different types of disinfectant wipes, just as effective. Nobody wanted them. Why? Because they didn't kill 99.9% of all household germs on their package. That's the only reason why people didn't want them. People wanted Lysol spray and Clorox wipes.
On your open-ended questions, is it applicable to add, so open-ended would be more like fill in the blank for me, like it's just completely open-ended. But the other ones, without having a multiple choice, if you
No.
never,
No, because you're leading. What if you give them 4 options, but their real answer is option 5 or option 6?
There are options that they don't even have thought about. Like there
Well-
are options that they might not think ever.
Well, you don't want them to give you the solution. You want to find out what their problems are. You want to find out what their ideal day would look like. It's up to you to figure out how to make that work.
Or help them discover, what are you doing, where's your frustrations?
Yes.
So I think that's the difference between like trying to validate something, you can maybe take them a survey that's multiple choice, versus I think this is for discovery, it's amazing for value proposition. If I can ask a question about this, let's say I talk to a bunch of customers, open-ended questions, literally in the discovery phase, trying to find the keywords that matter to them, trying to understand my customer base. What am I supposed to do with all of this afterwards? How does it become the value proposition, the foundation of my business? What is the next step?
Once you have all this information, well, once you have it mapped out like this, right, and you know all of this stuff, you kind of know what your elevator pitch is, right? You can say, like for Tesla, or actually I'm going to go to my own little coffee shop. So I can say, I am a coffee shop co-working space that caters to people that want to work, and I do that by providing power at every table. You're never without it. There's quiet hours so you can concentrate and get your work done. And I'm actually going to make it more economical for you to come here and work here, right? And then that's what's going to be that's what's going to be on your website. That's your website structure. Figuring out where people are. So let's say, for example, I have a gym, going back to the different segments that we had. I might have people, but you know when you see those things at the top that's like, and you've got like 2 or 3 different options that you can choose from, you are segmenting yourself into a conversation. If it's done right, you're segmenting yourself into the value proposition that applies to you. So if I go to a gym and I see bodybuilding, get rid of baby fat, look great by the pool, and recover from an accident, right? I'm not going to click get rid of baby fat because that's not something, that's not something that I have to deal with. But for the person that does click that, they're not going to get info about bodybuilding looking great by the pool. They're going to get information and messaging about getting their pre-baby body back, right? Because they've said when they clicked on that, they said, this is the piece that matters to me. I don't care about rehab. I don't care about mobility. I don't care about this other stuff. I care about getting rid of the baby fat. Yeah.
If you create this and you create your landing page and you find that your customers are, like, let's say you have the opportunity to talk to a customer, they're like, I don't know, there's like 3 things that I want to click, so I'm stuck. What does that mean about this exercise here?
That you haven't, So it can be very easy. You want to make sure that your different profiles are different enough to where people know what to click, but you also want to kind of try to have a catch-all thing for people that don't fit into that, right? Like maybe I go to the gym to lower my cholesterol. That's not probably going to be an obvious choice, but it could be in the thing of like get fit, be healthier, be your best self, whatever. So that can be a little bit tricky, but you have to kind of have, because not everybody's necessarily going to fit in. You don't want more than 3 or 4 buckets, because otherwise you're going to have 75 buttons across your screen. You can't do that. But you do kind of want to have a catch-all, and that's sort of your general to everybody pitch. Like if I walked into a room and said, what do you do? I'm going to give you my general pitch. But if I know that you have an online store, I'm going to give you my e-commerce pitch. If I know you're a consultant, I'm going to probably give you my CRM pitch. If I know that you are a content creator, I might give you my email marketing pitch or my blogging pitch, right? I've got all different pitches in my head based on different people in this room. But again, for a website, you want to make sure that you just have that one catch-all kind of place for anybody who doesn't fit.
I would like to expand on how to use it. If you go to a website, quite often you'll see at the top there's a list of features. Oh, look, we kind of say you can upload that, you can upload this. Most people ignore that. They skim. The thing about when you read right now a website, you probably only read the headlines and a few pieces. And if you see something compelling, you come back. But now if you start talking about the benefits, the wants, those things that they're having, how those are fulfilled, now you're going to get people to stop. You got 7 seconds to catch their attention, and then that only buys you another 11 seconds. And you're always in these tiny little increments of trying to capture attention. And if you can't do it in 7, you're probably not going to get the 11. So so now you go from a features to a this is how I satisfy.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So when you're listening to different user personas, like different personalities, like how do you kind of like stop from making a product more like a Frankenstein that caters to all these different user personas versus kind of like assigning weights to who to
Right.
service the most?
So you want to find kind of your broader buckets and then go that way, right? You're not going to cater, there's 30 people in this room. You'll have 30 different ideas of how I should actually do something, right? Rightly so. 8 billion people on the planet, 8 billion reasons why, different reasons why we should do something or not do something. So you want to find the commonalities, kind of the most common things, right? So like if you look at the Tesla one, right? What are people trying to do with the car, right? They're trying to go places, right? They're trying to go places safely. They're trying to keep their family safe. They're trying to save money on gas. Those kind of fall into the big buckets. Whether you are super rich and have a sports car, you still want to be safe. You still want performance. You still want those things. And if you have a family, right, you want to be safe. So try to find, they may not be necessarily obvious, but try and find where the similarities intersect and see, how you can do it that way. Usually, I've actually never come across a business yet where I wasn't able to pull them down into a maximum of 4 really different target audiences. I haven't come across that yet. So I would love it if I did, because I think that would be a really great thing to try and figure out. Yes?
Yeah, I guess just to expand on that too, at that point, you can consider which is the bigger market, or if you want to go niche, and you believe that niche market is going to grow in the future, then you could be a bigger fish in a smaller pond in that sense. But if you think the problem is big enough and large enough, then you can target that first, and you can start adopting other personas into the mix. That your core product doesn't have to go too far out of its current implementation to be able to solve those people's problems. But yeah, I guess it's just a matter of if you want to go niche or you want to pick the bigger stuff, and now you got to figure out who your competitors are and stuff like that.
And also with finding out who your customers are, there's another very important aspect to this I did not bring up. It'll also help you define who your customers are not. And sometimes that could be even more important than who your customers are, right? And be unapologetic. If somebody's not your customer, they're not your customer, right? I'm not Ferrari's customer. They don't apologize to me and I don't feel guilty to them, right? It's very clear. I'm not their customer for a number of reasons. I mean, I'm not a customer for Pampers, right? I have a 15-year-old. I do not need them. I'm not their customer. I can look at their marketing and instantly, you're not for me. And rightly so. I don't waste their time. They don't waste mine. So again, you can look at that too. Like, are they really your customer? Do you even want them to be your customer? And it's okay. You want to set those boundaries of these are my customers and these are not. And that's fine, right? None of us are it's not like if people can't do business with us that their lives are going to be ruined, right? They have other options. Fit where we can. Does that make sense?
To expand on what you were saying, you can also maybe have a product that can fit a larger niche and a much smaller one. But your larger one has more pain points that it addresses compared to your niche. Because you have multiple segments that you've worked out, you can say, okay, listen, I'm not going to go after the smaller segment yet. I can easily go after this larger segment. Or if it is a niche, I have no competitors in there. And I have identified how to talk to them. And so I can immediately start marketing the site because there was no known competitors and I can just tackle that and know the exact words to say. That's the power of knowing your segments and how to talk to them. You cut the time in half. Now when you're spending your money on your marketing, you're not wasting. There's less time in that testing. There's less time in your A, B, in some cases C, D, and F testing that you're going to work through. You're also, honestly, you're refining all of your marketing monthly or weekly, depends on how much you're spending. So the more you can understand, the more you can possibly get feedback and adjust and talk about other pain points. And maybe in your own workshop, you said, I thought this pain point was much lower. For this segment, it's actually higher.
How do you like work in a mature market where you have competitors and your competitors are seeing the same thing?
You have to say something different.
Well, that's what I'm asking. How do you solve that?
You solve that by finding out what they're not saying. Like if I go back to the lipstick market, there's a claim out there somewhere that nobody has made yet about a tube of lipstick.
Yeah, be cognizant of not falling into the pitfall of taking the same approach that larger, more established companies take with delivering their message, especially as you're trying to grow your own company. Like that, it's so easy to fall into that.
Mm-hmm.
We see other established players do take a certain strategy.
Exactly. And a lot of businesses, they'll be like, well, what does this company offer? What does my competitor offer? I'm going to offer all of that plus two things. It's a really bad strategy, especially if you're working in a mature market because your competitors probably have way more money than you and they can add those two things on in a week or two.
So if I try to design something, and these are the people I have actually in my camp, veterans organization, business owners, landowner, water rights, IT, blockchain constituents and candidates, along with Groupon co-founders. Do I try to put all of those together and say this is the solution, these type of collaborators that we're working on, or do I just section out Groupon only people, veterans only?
You section them out by what they're trying to do. If they're all trying to do exactly the same thing, right? Like every business out there has to meet payroll. Every business out there has that problem. So if you have something like payroll that goes across all businesses, then just do payroll. But if per one of those, your solution, your benefits are different, your reasons why are different, right? Like when I use the gym example, then you would have to take a more targeted approach. Yours is a little bit on the extreme side, but then what I would do is on the website, kind of have your big buckets where most people fall into at one point or another. Then in your email marketing, that's where you can really get into very specific for veterans, very specific for this group. But on your website, you just end up having something that just nobody even really understands and doesn't understand where they need to go.
We're creating a collaborative currency, and anybody interested in, it's going to be an ecosystem.
Okay.
Off-grid, so we would use our own power, food, and water there. And if you're interested in that, or if you're interested in having a lifestyle like a millionaire, but you're not taxed like a millionaire,
Okay.
that would be another bucket. And
So their job to be done is to...
all these guys are in one
Okay.
common denominator is to improve, to build a better business model to render whatever dysfunction that they are solving obsolete.
So-
That's
so-
the minimum
Okay.
viable product, that's the mission that everybody has agreed upon.
So one job to be done I heard was live like a millionaire, but don't be taxed like one. Okay, so that's a job to be done. What are the pains people are, I'm just gonna take this one. What are the pains people are having when they try to live like a millionaire, but they don't want to be taxed like one? What do they run into? What are their problems?
Well,
Just give me
most of
two.
them- Most of them don't have the skill set to live like a millionaire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so how are you gonna approach that? How do you address that?
There's an assessment that you are trained whatever passion that you're in, what your skill set is good at, and they train you so you increase your skill set so you can have a life like a millionaire. If that whatever.
So if I want a life like a millionaire, because I'm not full disclosure, I'm not a millionaire, but I want a life like a millionaire. Seriously, you're going to give me the skills to have my life like a millionaire?
I'm going to provide an opportunity and share that with you, and it's up to you to do your share. But the model is already in place and it's already have alpha test to prove that you are successful.
Okay. I mean, it's hard in some cases to say, oh, I would do it this way, because without going through a process and having the conversation. But again, what are people trying to do? What pains are they having? And how do you address those?
But do I lump them together or do I separate them out?
You do them,
Is split test?
So like you
What
would
about
say,
split testing and?
well, that's a little bit later. You wouldn't put veterans in, let's say, business owners, because they might overlap in their job to be done.
Yeah.
So you really want to kind of base it off of that job to be done.
What do they
Just focus in on that. And they might have a primary job to be done. And then from there, they might have other smaller jobs. If I'm a business owner, hypothetically, I don't want to keep paying the higher taxes, right? Maybe I want to work for veterans, maybe you have a veteran center. I don't know exactly what it's called. So what I want to do is I want to lower my taxes. I want to hire veterans. I want to give veterans employment. Those are now where you can start to see the job to be done related to veterans. That might be between business owners. You might find out Groupon has a special program related to that. You know how to speak to Groupon on a larger scale. So it's not the customer name or who they call themselves. It really comes down to what are they trying to accomplish and what are the problems they've had trying to accomplish that. It's just not in the market. They don't have outreach to veterans. Your job is to say, these are the problems and this is how I can solve them.
Well, what we found is if we just keep them in buckets, it's a lot harder to solve the problem. But when you cross-pollinate in between the two, and there's more pieces that come together in this puzzle,
Right.
that the experience, the outcome is so much better and the output is so much better when it's just not in one lane. When you bring veterans, business owners, and people that are, real estate developers.
Of course.
Who are willing to work in this model, it solves a lot bigger problem than just the veterans having some type of space to reify their skills.
Right, but for most companies,
Between the traditional demographics, you're not buying a house because you're a 35-year-old.
right, so traditional demographics used to work like this, like you'd be like, oh, who's our customer? It's, they're married, $100,000 a year, they live in Henderson, they drive, they have a Mercedes, they have 2 children, blah, 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 blah. That's okay info for down the road, but again, look at the shoes you're wearing, look at the clothes you're wearing. Did you buy those because you live in Henderson or downtown Las Vegas or Summerlin? Probably not. Did you say like, oh, I make $100,000, you know what, I'm going to go out and buy myself that belt? Of course not, right? That's a completely ludicrous way to segment. So again, when you segment on what people are trying to do, then that information, right? I'm trying to buy a new car, but because I'm not a millionaire, Bugatti and Ferrari and certain things are just not there. Then that other stuff starts becoming relevant, right? I live in Las Vegas, so I'm not going to buy a heavy winter coat. I'm not going to buy heavy sweaters. Therefore, that's when where I live demographics become relevant, but I don't go out and buy, I didn't buy this blue shirt simply because I live in Las Vegas and I'm a certain age and I have a teenager and I'm self-employed. That had nothing to do with it. So, yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I know we're almost out of time, but if I could ask one more.
Of course.
And I'll put an offer out there too, because thank you so much, Rob. I really love this framework. I think it's going to be super helpful. I'm going to be trying this myself. If
Perfect.
anybody wants to do it with me, I know that my biggest thing is I will get stuck somewhere. If someone who is not me can look at my map, it'll help me a lot. and I'm happy to do that for you. If you were going to give us advice as we try to do this exercise ourselves, what would that be?
Get a sounding board, first off. Get somebody no, seriously, get somebody who's going to tell you the baby's ugly, but then also can tell you what to do about it. And to that point, anybody who does one online, you can email me. My contact information is here. I will be happy to take a look at it. We can set up a 15-minute discovery call, but just know I will so what and who cares you into the ground. You may not be happy. I've actually had people get very upset, but it is all done because if I can rip apart your value proposition and help you put it back together, it's better that happen than your customers happen. Then your customers do that, right? It's better for me to be like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Who cares? So what? You don't want your customers saying that when it's out there and you're trying to get customers. You don't want people saying, I don't know, I should buy your stuff. And then they go somewhere else. Because that hurts more than somebody saying, you know what, I just don't understand what you're trying to do. So, thank you. So,